Well, g'day everyone, and thank you for joining us. This is another very exciting casual convo. I have the Honorary Patrick McNamara AM. He's going to fill us in on the Nagambie Gold and what it's all about coming up this weekend up at Nagambie on Saturday. Now, Pat, thank you for joining me.
Yeah, no, thanks very much for the invitation.
It's great. It's an absolute bit of an honour, Patrick. I was going to do a bit of an intro about you, but we probably don't need to. I did jump onto the rowing history page that Andrew Guerin's spent a bit of time on, of course, and I was going to give the intro, but I'd be here for about half an hour just giving an intro about what you have done for, well, not only the state, but for rowing in general. And to that I say thank you.
Well, thanks very much for that. I appreciate it. But no, look, we were quite keen to do something a little innovative up here at Nagambie, and club's quite strong financially, fortunately. We're up to now 2,000 members, including all our social members. And as you know, we run a gaming and liquor venue in High Street, Nagambie.
And most people who have been up to Nagambie would certainly know that venue well. So just to jump in there, Pat, if I may. So the Nagambie Gold thing is a concept that's been brought by yourself and Nagambie Rowing Club. Is that correct?
That's right. Yep. So we were looking at ways to actually promote the town and the venue and rowing. And I was talking to a former colleague when I was president of Rowing Australia. John Boltby was on the board with me, and you probably know John. John was well known in rowing in terms. He was the CEO of FISA for a number of years, and then head of the Australian Institute of Sport. And he's a steward at Royal Henley in London. So,
oh wow,
got some pretty good rowing credentials. And,
it doesn't get better than all of that, does it?
No. And a coxswain too, I think. So.
Well, then he's at the pointy end of things. The other point, of course, but you know. Yeah.
So anyway, I said to him, look, I was thinking about putting a cash prize probably of $50,000 to $60,000 for a rowing event at Nagambie. And I said, look, that'd probably be one of the best rewarded events in Australia. He said, well, it'll be the best in the world.
When you suggested that, did he fall over? Because we're talking about a sport that has zero money, and you've just thrown the idea of a big chunk of change on the table.
Yeah. Well, look, it's taken about a year to sort of work our way through. Initially, I was looking at running something perhaps along the lines of how the Youth Cup used to operate.
Yep.
Have a crew of 8, 2 lightweights, 6 heavyweights. They double up in lightweight single sculls, lightweight doubles, a 4 pair, single heavyweight sculls, and then all come together and run as an 8, and you get points for the whole lot.
Yep.
When we were thinking of putting a cash prize of $50,000 for the club or school that it's split 25 each male and female, that actually got the best result.
Yep.
Finished a long distance race from, like we do with the head of the Goldman, from Nagambie up to Milk Winery.
Yep.
That'll be the last event. We've got some problems, obviously, with the Chinaman's Bridge. The Shire have put a ban on people rowing under it or speedboats going under it because of the safety issue. So then we were looking at doing something around the course. And as we talked through it, the main thing we wanted to do was to try to attract elite athletes to Nagambie.
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, look, what do we need to do to show off the Paris Olympic team? There's no other event that they're going to come to Nagambie, to Victoria for.
Yep.
They row in a couple of regattas around Sydney, New South Wales champs, and then the nationals. So we decided to incorporate it into our regatta. I had a couple of people who, quite experienced in rowing, said, well, you won't get them because the following weekend they're doing trials for national selection for the Olympics, and it's too short a time.
I was actually speaking to someone in Queensland the other day about it, and they brought up that issue of the trials through a bit of a manner in it. But that's neither here nor there.
But anyway, put a bit of cash on the table, and trials don't seem to be a problem now. So we've got 4 women's pairs from the training centre, including the pair that actually last year broke the world record for the fastest time in a women's pair at the Nagambie Regatta.
Right.
So we've got some men's pairs, we've got single sculls, male and female. We're giving $5,000 prize money for the winner of each of the 4 races, $1,250 for second place, and then the best prognostic will get another $10,000 per seat.
Now, so, can I just jump in there, Pat? Sorry for those listening in. Prognostic, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Pat, that's the closest to world time on a percentage base, is that correct?
On their boat class.
Yeah, on their boat class, of course. So it's possible that the female single could beat the male pair because they're closest to world time on prognostics. Yep. Have you just given away, though, who the winner of that might be by mentioning the female pair?
Well, the women's one of the women's single scullers was a silver medalist at last year's World Championships.
Right.
And Paul Thompson, the head of the Rowing Australia coaching group, who previously was coaching the UK team, but in some of their trials, some of the men's boats have beaten the women's single and pair on prognostics.
Right.
So, it could be a bit more open than what people think. Yeah, but if it's a pair, male or female, there'll be an extra $20,000 to that boat, $10,000 for each athlete.
That is a serious chunk of change for a sport that has nothing.
Well, that's on top of the $5,000 they've already won. So the winning prognostic time, each athlete, $15,000. And that'll take our payout up to about $60,000 if a pair wins.
Sorry, so if am I reading this correctly? So prize money per seat, the overall prognostic is that a pair could get 20 grand, is that?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So the pair will get 5,000 each.
Yep.
Their heat.
Yep.
If that is the best prognostic time, they'll get another 10,000 each.
Oh, wow.
Each crew member. So that pair will walk away with $30,000, 15,000 each.
Are you trying to create live rowing? Is that what's going on here, Pat?
Well, someone suggested we could get the Saudis to sponsor us next year.
Yeah, that is serious coin, isn't it? Especially for, I don't personally know a lot of the names in here. I know of the names. But I imagine it's a fair chunk of change to a lot of these people. That's impressive.
Yeah, look, I think the interesting thing that we're aiming for, what John Boltby said to me a year ago, he said, if you promote this thing over 12 months internationally, he said that could be enough incentive for a North American, either Canada or the US, or a Northern European country to come down training block on water that they can't do at home. The river is frozen over. A lot of the boat clubs if you saw some of the Republican Democrat politics that's been going on, I think there was a state there recently that was covered in snow, and they were wondering whether people could actually get to the polling booth to vote. Well, you'd forget about rowing, you wouldn't even get onto a river, they'd be frozen.
Yeah.
A lot of the European countries are the same, they just do indoor rowing during the winter months. So come down to Australia during your winter, have a block here of 4 or 5 weeks, and then maybe also compete in the Nationals and in the New South Wales Champs and Nagambie. So I had that comment mirrored by Paul Thompson. Paul said, look, he said, this will attract people from around the world.
Oh, absolutely.
He said, and John said to me, this is the wealthiest race in the world. For us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we go before Live Golf, we had the skins, and it's a sort of similar. You're bringing in big money, you're going to get attention, aren't you?
Well, I think we might immediately next year perhaps get a bit of attention from New Zealand. They've had pretty good pairs and some pretty good scullers.
Oh, they've had some very good pairs in the past, haven't they? With the pair that were unbeaten for 68 or 69 wins in a row, including world championships and gold medals.
And two Olympic gold medal scullers.
Yeah. So this is the first year. What if I'm to say, what is your ultimate vision or dream of this? What would that be?
Well, the vision is. Like? Well, Paul said to me that, as I said before, he said it's going to finish up. There'll be three main regattas that the elite rowers will be focusing on. That'll be New South Wales championships, which you have to row in to qualify for an invite to go to trials.
Yep.
There'll be the national championship, which obviously every elite rower wants to go at. And he said there'll be Nagambie. He said they'll be the three big events. So I think it'll be a great event to promote Nagambie, to promote our course. And I mean, we've got a club that we're fortunate enough that we've got the wherewithal to actually back it financially ourselves.
It's a massive move, and I love the focus on tourism, because you're looking beyond just rowing here. This is a tourism focus on the community, obviously, and there'll be plenty of people. I mean, obviously the town has exploded since that rowing course was extended. I can't remember, what was the old, I remember rowing in it in the old, was it a Boxing Day regatta there used to be, and that was always a bit tough because you'd always be a bit rusty and you'd have to drive up there on a Boxing Day. What was the old course? What length was that?
1,600 metres. It was a mile.
Right.
And you rode diagonally across the lake.
Yeah. Well, now that explains why I collapsed, because many years ago I took a single scull up there and I was in extremely bad shape, and I had a row and I blew up halfway down and got told to clear the course because the next race was coming. But let's not go on about my rowing career. I think this is absolutely fantastic, and obviously everyone's getting on board.
Yeah. Look, I've had some great comments from some of the senior coaches, both with the women's centre and the men's centre, thanking us for giving their athletes the opportunity to race in the event. Yeah. I thought that was a really nice thing to say. Rowing Australia are paying the airfares to fly these athletes down.
Oh, great.
And we've organised accommodation for them in a lakeside motel. We're having a dinner with them all tomorrow night at the club, with the board of the club. Yep. Probably one thing you might not be aware of, since last year, the council has completed a walking track, cycling track down the south side of the course.
I'm very aware of that, because my number one sport, I shouldn't say my number one, my main sport, Pat, is actually triathlon. And so during races, I go for a run. And I think it was, when was it? A few months ago, I went for a run down the dusty old highway, as I've done in the past, and got into town, then turned around and hang on, they've finished this boardwalk. And I ran back along that. It was absolutely fantastic. Yeah,
well, I mean, we've now got a course people can follow, on bike, walking, whatever, follow the full length course. And I think I said at the council for some time, when we had events like the APS Head of the River, and we get crowds of probably 17,000 to 18,000 for that, bigger than the store gift. Huge crowds. It's outside of an AFL competition. It's probably the biggest sporting event in country Victoria. People would come to the APS, they'd park their car in the car park, they pay to park their car, and then they're trapped for the day. And the kids know a heat in the morning, and there's 4 hours before the final. Now they can put the bike on the back of the car, or they can walk, come into town. They could have lunch at the club overlooking the course or at the brewery, but they can wander around the town and spend a bit of money. So it's actually bringing that tourist group that used to sit at the Roadhouse corner, never come into Nagambie. They now come down the boardwalk. So I think it'll pay for itself.
Well, there's no doubt, Pat, you've got the vision, and you're not talking about it, you're actually doing it and executing it, which is absolutely fantastic. I reckon there'd be a lot of people right on board with what's going on here. A very quick question on the rowing. Is it an invitational? I see it's obviously one first and final, for lack of a better word, so 8 maximum. Is it an invitational thing, or at this stage was it put your hand up and first in, best dressed? How did you get to?
We said we'd seed it. So it's seeded on the basis of the results of the New South Wales champs last week.
Oh, yeah.
So all of the ones from the training centres, we've got 6 or 7 athletes who won a gold medal in Tokyo coming down. The rest have all won medals in last year's World Championship or a gold medal in Tokyo.
Yeah.
They're all
it's the end.
So, I mean, the women's pair were a silver medalist. The women's sculler was a silver medalist. The 2 8s, male and female, both won bronze medals.
Yeah.
So, there's some good athletes coming down, and I think it's a great chance to showcase those to the Victorian rowing community, because you won't see it ever again. This is the only race I'll be in.
And it's amazing for, and I use the word loosely, the average punter, because there's no such thing as an average punter when it comes to rowing. But the average punter to see the world's best is pretty impressive, isn't it?
Well, Paul McGann said to me, he said, "Can we get some bookmakers next week?"
Well, that brings me to my next point, Pat, and I'm going to put you on the spot. I want you to name a winner in all 4 of the events, and just for those that aren't aware of what Nagambie Gold is, the 4 events. It's the men's open single, the female open single, and the men's open pair and the female open pair. So are you brave enough to give me a winner of all of those 4?
Look, I have an inkling on who they might be.
Yeah.
I don't want to tip a pair and not tip my future daughter-in-law.
Okay, no. but if I was the bookmaker, Pat, and, if I was giving you decent odds, who would you be putting in?
It was in the 4 in Tokyo that won. She and my son have been, I suppose, they've been going out together for 7 or 8 years now. Maybe it might be even 10 years. They met during Youth Cup a fair while ago, and they're both in their early 30s now. And I'm hoping that after Tokyo we see some wedding bells and Lucy and Michael back up here at Nagambie. But and I've got plenty of roles for Lucy when she comes home too, in terms of around the club.
Well, just sidetracking for a second then, Pat. Is it fair to say there'd be a bit of rowing conversation around the dinner table or not?
Well, I've been a rowing tragic for a long time.
What's your wife's take on all of that?
Look, Meryl is not as enthused as me, but she enjoys the sport. But I didn't want to push my son Michael too early in rowing, so I didn't put him into a racing single until he was 5 years old.
That sounds like in triathlon, but it backfired on my end.
But anyway, as a schoolboy rower, I think he won the state under 17 single, and then the schoolboys 2 years in year 11 and 12. So he was told by his sisters that when he went to boarding school, that would be the last that he'd have to row because Dad wouldn't be there to push him. He was rowing at school as well. So
yeah, there's always someone there to push, isn't there?
But look, I don't think there's too many people who rowed who aren't passionate about the sport.
No.
Whatever level we rowed at, it's something that's ingrained in us. And I think we can all remember the crews we rowed with, and we tend to forget the football teams we rowed with, or football teams we competed with.
Yeah.
But if you're in a crew, it's a different type of sport. Everyone has to be contributing equally. You can't carry a passenger. Creates a uniqueness, and I think a camaraderie that's different to any other sport.
Oh, look, I agree completely. It is. We always refer to it as the ultimate team sport, don't we? But I think it is, because without a shadow of a doubt, you can't just pull out the last minute. It doesn't work that way. You can play footy if you're one person down, or cricket if you're one person down. You may not go so well, but you can do it. You can't do this one person down. It's just not an option. You commit. You have to participate, and when you're at that point in the race where it's all hurting like hell, all you're thinking of is, well, I can't let my mates down.
Exactly. I mean, two cricketers make a duck, can't we? And someone makes 100. The team's still on a road to a win. But
absolutely, but it doesn't work like that in rowing. The other thing too I love about rowing is how massive the single sculls have become. numerous decades now. But if you went back into the 80s, it was pretty sort of a minor thing, but now it's a massive thing. And I really, I go on about this a bit actually, is I really admire the kids who get up there in the single sculls and have a crack at the young age and expose themselves so heavily. And it's impressive. And even in masters, you're seeing people. There's a few at our club down at Hawthorn who this year alone has just jumped into doing a bit of a single scull at over 50 years old, and they're coming last. But that doesn't matter. They're having a go, and everyone's supportive of that. And I think it's fantastic.
Well, it's interesting, the view of clubs. When I started rowing at Mercantile in the late 60s, I came back home to the farm, in the early 70s, and we rode in the Junior 8 in those days, which was a different category.
Yep.
A championship, and then I was rowing in the Merc Senior 8 with Freddie Federico coaching. And, Dickie Garrett and a few other, the Boykits and a few others, Dave Polferman. And anyway, when I came home, the only boat I could really row in was a scull. And I started sculling. And I remember coming back to Mercantile after a regatta, and a few of the older members at Mercantile, people like Bob Aitken and Norm Cairns and Bill Bradshaw and others, they pulled me to one side and they said, "Look, Pat, we're a bit concerned about you." And I said, "Why is that?" They said, "Well, we've never met a sane sculler."
Well, there's probably no truth to that, isn't there?
Well, there was probably a bit more of a view at that stage where it wasn't seen as a universal thing that everyone learns to do. And in those days, if you were sculling in a club like a Mercantile or Banks or someone, you were seen as someone that didn't want to row with the guys in the 8, and you were regarded as a little bit odd. But
maybe they were scared of you, Pat.
Well, Jeff Sykes was rowing in those days, and Ken Leach, and there was some good guys around. So, I made a lot of friends and different people, and enjoyed that. Yeah.
It's a great sport for that. I mean, it's where all your long-term friendships groups come from, isn't it? When you have that interaction through those eras, I think it's fantastic.
Well, I think the first Masters 8 I rowed in, I got a call from Dickie Garrard to run a Masters 8 with him.
Yep.
And we got down to Barrington. We'd never trained together, but Dick just told me to start training on an ergo about 10 weeks before. Dick Garrard, Peter Philp, George Zuris and Jeff Sykes.
Right.
4. And I found out later they'd been winning World Masters events, and they were winning everything, in the pairs and fours on the Saturday. And I thought, this 8's looking all right. So anyway, we had our first paddle rowing up to the start.
Well, actually, the interesting thing, and I did a podcast just earlier this week, actually, and it was in relation to, it was a review of the schoolgirls rowing on the weekend, and Vicky Kafuri was talking about the difference between school rowing and club rowing for her daughter, and her daughter was up in Sydney last weekend, and they got thrown into a 4, I think it was, might have been a quad. And their first row was to the start, and they won the gold. So, I think sometimes we do get caught up a little bit in rowing, thinking that we all should just be constantly rowing together as a team, but you can actually jump into boats, and good rowers will adapt, won't they? And you're talking about quality rowers there, so of course you can adapt and all work together with the same outcome,
We did win that race too, so the rest of us followed the Sykeses and the Garrows and the Zurises.
Yeah.
Went along for the
I'm just scanning, and I will finish up in a sec because people only listen to podcasts for so long, I reckon. But this is interesting, so I could keep going for another hour or two, but we better not do that. But I just want to finish. I'm just scanning through again your page on the Rowing History website, which is fantastic, isn't it? I mean, Andrew Guerin's done an amazing job with all of that. But there's something here that stands out. It talks about the Christmas Regatta series. What was the Christmas Regatta series? Is that including, of course, what happened to Nagambie on Boxing Day? Was there other races around there?
There was a treble. So we raced. Nagambie was on Boxing Day.
Yep.
Following Saturday was Yarrawonga, and then New Year's Day was Rutherglen.
Right.
That was
Jeez.
the treble. So people would row at Nagambie, go to Yarrawonga, camp up there, and then we'd go out to Rutherglen on the New Year's Day, which sometimes there was dramatically poorer performances by some athletes after New Year's Eve.
I'd imagine it'd be getting tough. The treble went on.
Yeah.
It'd start hard. I would imagine Boxing Day was hard enough. Then to double up. Oh well, maybe there's something that can come back in. Look, it is harder, isn't it, these days? I mean, Rutherglen's a great regatta, though, isn't it? Now what they're doing up there, that's fantastic. I love that regatta. It's up there with my favourite. My other favourite, of course, is the Head of the Goulburn, which was the Foot of the Goulburn this year. But hopefully we'll be back. Will we be back to Head of the Goulburn? I mean,
council are working with Heritage Victoria to try and get the old bridge removed.
Yeah.
So we river and the wineries want it open. People, all the boating people, even the power boating people, want to get it open again. So I think there's a bit of that sort of
bit of pressure to get it going, which will be great. Well, look, on that note, let's wind it up, Pat. You've probably got to get some dinner going or something. I know I do. So I really appreciate your time. We might do it again in the future with something else if I can drag you in.
All right. Well, look, thanks for your interest in our event, and we're looking forward to a good day on Saturday.
Absolutely. Be tuning in and looking forward to watching it. Is there a live feed? I haven't seen that. Is there a live feed for the day? I do not know.
I'm trying to track a drone down, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. No, there doesn't seem. Maybe that's the thing we can push for next time is a live feed. I mean, this is a massive thing, and by the sound of it, it's only early days for your vision.
Yeah. Well, I think Paul Thompson said to me, if we need to change a few things, let's do it, over the next 12 months. But let's get the event done this year, start it, and then we'll tweak what we need to over the next 12 months.
No, that's great. Look, thanks very much, Pat, for joining me, and well done on putting this together. Well done on Nagambie Rowing Club, and well done on everything that you're doing up there. It's great for the sport, and there's no doubt this is only early days.
Thanks for your support.
Thanks very much. Good on you.
Bye.
Thanks, Pat.